Hello, and thank you for joining me on Infocus. I'm Bradley Valenaki. The country Papua New Guinea is a beautiful country in terms of the challenges we have here. It's an heaven on earth. The birds, the place, the animals, but of course the people. And tourism is one sector in Papua New Guinea that shows to the world the magnificent color of life and the people we have here in the country. And I'm privileged to have with me in the studio the Minister for Tourism, Isi Henry Leonard. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Varanaki, for the invite and for having me here.
As the Tourism Minister, you have been moving around here in Papua New Guinea. What a wonder, even for a Papua New Guinean to also travel and see the length and breadth of this wonderful nation.
I've been given the opportunity since my inauguration into the ministry, and I've been taken over from the former Minister, Honorable Walter Snowbelt, earlier this year. I was given the opportunity to actually reach out to some of those very remote areas of the country where people still hold on to their culture, their tradition, and even their way of life. And I was very amazed. I went as far as the remote island of BP. It's towards the western end of Manus province. And then I proceeded to the highlands. I went up to Wabeg, then to Hagen, Goroka. Then I went to my own province in Mulumbe, which is the Kirwin Islands, to actually host officiate the opening of the Kirwina cultural show.
Still culturally connected, our people in Milne Bay.
Indeed, Milne Bay is quite unique, especially in tropes. When I went to Kirwina, I noticed that they have evolved and people have now embraced tourism as a way of life. And in Milne Bay, I think and I believe that the people of Kirwina are tourism ready. They're tourism ready. So that is one area where I noticed, because everyone participated, right from a child to an old and adult person. And it's amazing.
True. And preserving culture through these tourism activities we have here in the country, in parts of the country as well. Look, Minister, these are challenging times for Papua New Guinea. And tourism, although not compared to these big industries or sectors we have here in the country, tourism still delivers, but at this time it's quite challenging.
I took over the time when the pandemic actually struck the world, and we were in the path. And I was there when from the start of my ministry, I took over. And it was a very challenging time because of the fact that when the government set in motion its response in controlling and containing issues relating to the COVID-19 issue, and it actually created a very, very, disastrous impact on the industry. Now, given the position of the government when COVID-19 actually struck the country, in the government's wisdom, we sealed off the entry points for inbound tourism. No flights coming in, and even the cruise ships, none came through last year, even now. So last year we felt the impact of the closure of the borders. No inbound tourists. I think same time last year we experienced the number. We had about 33,000 inbound tourists that came through. And after the closure, 75% drop. 75% drop by about 25,000 reduced. So it actually created an impact. And that effect flowed onto the service providers, like the the hoteliers, and even the guest houses, bungalows, and even shops also. It affected employment. A lot of people were laid off because of the impact. So it caused disastrous impact on our people. and especially in the industry. People couldn't sell their balloons, they couldn't sell the artifacts, and we couldn't stage shows. So I took over at the time. So when I took over, I noticed and I realized that we will not depend on the inbound tourism. We will now have to reconfigure tourism. So I actually took on seriously promoting cultural shows in remote areas, events that are held in isolation away from crowds. Having that in mind, we've got to comply with the COVID-19 protocols. So the only way to do that is to promote cultural shows in remote areas where people are. So I went ahead and I started visiting remote areas, launching cultural shows and promoting them. And with whatever little resource that I had in the ministry, I began to share and promote those cultural shows. So I went as far as the western island of Manus, Bipi. Then I went to Anga, and to Hagen. I went to Trobs. I went over to this Kukila to promote the what they call Central Province Agricultural Show. And I went around doing that, promoting that. And eventually, everywhere in the country took on the what they call that the concept. So each provinces began to create their own cultural shows in their respective areas. And that is the way to drive tourism now. We go local and we promote domestic tourism.
Right. So domestic tourism, a key part of the discussions now, a solution to these times and the sector itself, the tourism sector, which is hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll take a short break and come back on the other side with more. You're watching Infocus. Welcome back. Discussions around the tourism sector, a sector that's been hard hit during the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister, if you were to place a value on the industry right now, how much is the tourism industry worth here in Papua New Guinea?
Well, let's paraphrase it this way. The tourism that is based on culture globally is about 450 billion. Tourism based on culture. And in this country, we have well over 800 languages. And it is a testimony or revelation of the diversity of culture that we have. Well over 800 culture. Now, if we can use that, let me say this. Papua New Guinea has a unique position because of the fact that it has diverse culture. And in tourism, diversity is the drive that will attract tourists to come. And we already have it here in the country, naturally. So if we can put some figures, I tell you it's so much. Given the fact that the culture, tourism drive in the world globally is worth 450 billion, I think we can get a portion of that, given the fact that we have a diverse cultural country. So we have that, and that is our strength. Now, if we can develop it and improve it better through government policy and through budget support, I think we can achieve more. We have a long way to go, but with that support, we can drive it even further. Now, I've seen this country since independence. We have a unique country where culture and tradition is ingrained into the lifestyle of the people. And we continue to have that. But time is one thing, and people's existence is another. As time progresses, people that have the knowledge of culture and tradition are fading away fast. And with the intrusion of modernization, the Western style of living, lifestyle, it has now eroded. It's eroding fast our culture and our tradition. That's the reason why I want to promote cultural activities, because through those cultural activities, we will now realize ourselves. And at the same time, those values that are ingrained in culture and tradition can be relived and can be passed down and handed down to the next generation. And the onus is on the current generation, the present generation, to impart. How do they do that? By promoting cultural activities right throughout the country.
Okay, because of the challenging times, huge crowds are hard to come by. But how is the Tourism Promotion Authority going ahead in promoting these local exhibitions for the local tourism market here in Papua New Guinea, and for those that have the resources to travel internally and give back to the sector itself?
Yes. Now, Tourism Promotion Authority, TPI, cannot do it itself. So we have gone ahead creating these arrangements, what they call a true National Cultural Commission. We have a program. I've already started getting the governors of respective provinces to come forth so that we sign an agreement where we partner in rolling out our cultural programs and activities. So they have their own respective events that we will recognize through the National Cultural Commission. Then we can register that. Then they partner with us. They put a bit of money, we also chip in a bit of money. Then we jointly participate in promoting those activities. We've started with the Anga province, the Anga provincial government. Just recently we signed an MOU with Governor Peter Patas, and they've already started their programs. Now, it's important. Partnership is the way to go, especially in times like this, through COVID-19 and pandemic intrusion and invasion. So we need to partner in promoting tourism. So we've done that with Anga provincial government. So the next or the coming future programs, we will partner. So whatever little resource we have, we can then share. We share our funding arrangements and even technical personnel to go and document, to go and help them arrange the events. For instance, the Anga Cultural Show, we need to comply with COVID-19 protocol. So they have to measure out the oval, the arena where the show was held, and they have to set the arrangements as to how many dancing groups will participate. And also they allow only certain people at certain point in time to go in and out. Regardless of the COVID-19, we can still manage. We must adhere to the protocols. And that's exactly what happened in Anga. And they managed it very successfully. And I think that's the way forward for every other provinces to come and participate, especially within this time, the COVID-19 era. So we need to adhere to the protocols. For instance, just recently, the Goroko show, which is one of the oldest shows in the country. Now they actually canceled the show.
Yes.
I was supposed to officiate, but then it was canceled because of the COVID-19. Yes, I think we can manage. But the cancellation actually is a complete blow to the tourism industry. But if only they could liaise and help manage it with the show committee and as well as the leaders, I think we can manage it. There is potential for domestic tourism. Now, given the fact that a lot of expatriates cannot go back to their countries, they're already here. They are kept captive because of the COVID-19 protocol. We still have that number of expatriates, whether they're in the mining sector, whether they're in the logging sector, whichever sector that is, we still have quite a number of expatriates that we can have them to participate as what they call a local tourist to visit our events. And I want to promote that. And a lot of people have expressed, their desire to go and visit. For instance, in Anga, we had people flown in from as far as Rabaul, Kavian, and even in Port Moresby.
So that's a good sign, basically, for the industry.
A very good sign.
And also adapting to the times as well.
Exactly.
Right. Still, discussions on tourism in Papua New Guinea. We'll take a short break and come back on the other side with more. Welcome back to the program. Still discussions with the Minister for Tourism, Isi Henry Leonard. Now, Minister, small businesses in the country, village bungalows, the guest houses that operate within the confines of the villages, the towns, the districts in our country, they are struggling at the moment. And they are asking how they can access this promised support from government.
Yes, I've had a number of inquiries that were directed to me in regards to support for the small bungalows and even some women activities and programs which are related to tourism. Now, at the moment, our country is confronted with the issues regarding monies, the funds. We're hard hit, but the government is focused in resuscitating its budgetary commitments. Now there is in place this stimulus package that I'm liaising with the treasurer that we should be given recognition. Much emphasis given to like agriculture, and even other sectors. But I believe the tourism sector should be given equal attention, that we should be given funding, because any money that comes through to tourism and my ministry actually is given right back to where the people are, those that are in the rural settings. So I've been liaising with the treasurer to at least provide some funding support through the stimulus package so that we are able to allow that funding to be made through, right down through to our village-based bungalows and small setups, especially those that are involved with the women. Women are always engaged with tourism programs. So it's already in place. I've been liaising with the treasurer on an ongoing basis to make sure that we are given the recognition and funding support.
All right. And you also spoke earlier about local tourists, tourists within Papua New Guinea, our locals, the expatriates who are here. It would be nice to also see them, if they have the time and resources, to also go back and give to these small people.
That's true. We need support from those local tourists. Now, I understand that there are a couple of mines in the country and they have the expatriate staff. Now, they couldn't go back. They couldn't go back to their country because of the COVID-19 protocol. And if they have to go, they're required to be quarantined and they might be there for a long time. So most of them are kept in the country. Now, these are the people that we need to target, those in the mining sector. And they have the funds, they have the monies, they need to spend it. And those are the ones that we must target so that we can have them involved or have them to visit those important, festivals, cultural festivals. So that's one sector, the mining sector. Then you have the logging sector, forestry. And then you have the fisheries. And also those that are engaged in other multinational companies that are based here in Port Moresby, Lae, Goroka, even Hagen. We can target them. And I believe with the promotion of events, a lot of them were attracted. For instance, the Hagen show. I was at Hagen, and they came in numbers. And I was very surprised because Hagen is quite remote, and I thought they wouldn't make it up there, but they were there. And also, we have these locals, the professionals, the national professionals. There's so many of them in the country also. The engineers, the doctors, they're here in the country. They have that bracket in terms of salary. They have extra money to spend. So we need to target those people and have them engaged in promoting this domestic tourism. Now we have one problem, and that is the airfares. Now we are communicating with especially this National Airports Corporation and the airlines company, for instance, Air Guinea and PNG Air. We are constantly communicating with them for them to create some incentives where we reduce fares, especially when events are occurring. Then we can identify those that are local tourists. Then we have their fares slashed so they can go attend to those events. And this will help promote domestic tourism.
Of course. And so in the tourism calendar, there are calendar events, major events, and there are side events as well, as you mentioned. But for the hotel businesses here in Papua New Guinea, they have been, of course, surviving on companies that have fly-in, fly-out basis workers who have been using them for quarantine. So that's actually good for the tourism sector.
Yes, because of the requirements in COVID-19, you have to quarantine workers, whether they be expatriates or locals. They have to quarantine. And in this COVID-19 period, a lot of hoteliers are making good income out of this requirement. As per the pandemic law, they have to quarantine for a certain number of days. And I understand that if you check the hotels like the Airways, or even the Papuan, or Grand Papua, or even the Ella Beach Hotel, or even the Holiday Inn, you would notice that they're fully booked, especially this time, because of the quarantine requirements. It's mandatory on employers to not provide a quarantine. So they have to be locked in for, say, 14 days.
Right. So, Minister, what will your advice be, your words of hope be for those now in the tourism business here in Papua New Guinea?
We must now understand that pandemic, it's a global issue, and it's historical. What we are going through is historical. It happened before, and we are going through that. We will manage. And the way the government has gone through its pandemic bill, law, we're able to manage and contain it, and we will survive it. Just like any other country in their time, they survived it, and we will survive it. And for us to go through this, especially this experience that we're going through now, it will now help us. It's helping us to reshape, reprioritize, reorganize tourism industry in the country. All this time we've been thinking that tourism is all about inbound tourists. Really, it's not. The basis of tourism in this country has got to be local tourism. That's the basis. We must never depend on inbound tourists. We must now use local tourism to develop tourism industry in this country. As soon as the COVID-19 is under control, and when the gates are lifted and inbound tourists re-enter, then we can build on that. But for us, we need to use this situation now to rearrange things. For instance, like a cruise ship. I think at this point in time, we should now select what sort of ships are coming in. We should now target the super yachts. Forget about the normal, the usual cruise ships. Forget about them. We go for the high-end tourist. People who own super yachts and who have the money to spend. And given the current situation in the world globally, the threat of COVID-19 is real. And super yachts who want to visit places that are COVID-free and very remote and isolated, I think we can use that because of our remoteness and the uniqueness of our culture. We can now invite super yachts to come. We should now do away with the, the normal cruise ship. There have been instances where cruise ships were places where COVID-19 actually popped up and it spread, and they have to lock them up. So we should now manage our cruise ships that are coming in. We should now target the super yachts.
All right. So, Minister, thank you very much for coming on to the program, and we wish you all the best in working with the line agencies of government in of course, providing confidence to the sector and some way forward.
Thank you.
This has been Infocus. If you have comments on tonight's program, you can email us on the email now showing, or you can engage with us on our social media pages. You can watch this program also a little later on YouTube. From all of us here, stay safe. Bye-bye.